All right. So let's talk about more about books and what we're allowed to read. So I don't know about you, but I feel okay. So I grew up in California, and so maybe there's just a difference in like how different states teach different subjects. But I feel like when I was a kid in the 90s and the early 2000s, that it was uh, taught to us that burning books, banning books, anything about restricting books was a signal of like a bad government. And I was under the impression that that was illegal, that we don't ban books in America. And now I'm like, wait, what happened? All right, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. My name is Melissa, and I am here with
Jessica.
and today we're gonna talk about books, and like something interesting came up for me. If you remember the episode, maybe you've watched it or listened to it, maybe you haven't. I am ex-Mormon, and we kind of talked about that in a couple different episodes. And I recently started thinking about books and what books I was allowed to read growing up. And so we're going to kind of dive into that a little bit. But I want to see, Jessica, what kind of books did you read growing up?
I was obsessed with
Uh-huh.
author called Piers Anthony, and he did a fantasy book series called Zankt, I think. I never knew how to
Mm-hmm.
pronounce it, but the it was just full of puns and for adult content, even though I didn't realize it was adult when I was a kid. But I read that series for a really long time, and then some one-off fantasy books, and then when I got older, I started getting into more nonfiction.
That's awesome. Yeah, I liked fantasy as well. And what's interesting, looking back at the series, like the different books that I read growing up, my parents never had any problem with us reading about like witchcraft and stuff. And I know some religious families are against that, no reading about witchcraft and fantasy and all that. I read Harry Potter. We loved Harry Potter. But another book, that a series of books that I got really into as a kid, was actually by a Mormon author, and it was this fantasy world set in the Book of Mormon, which at the time I believed to be, a real thing that happened. But it's really just a fantasy world in a fantasy world when you think about it. Um, but there was this whole big series. I think there's like 14 books. And just it's so funny to me that that was one of my favorite book series growing up, was this fantasy book about the Book of Mormon and Jesus and all these things. There was like time traveling involved. There was romance, but clean romance. There was tons of adventure. So I mean, the themes that were in the book, I do think they're still good books. But it's weird now looking back at them because I'm like, they're books based on worlds. Like, it's just so weird that it takes place in a world that I thought was real but isn't real.
Ooh, that sounds like it was a bit of a mind fuck.
It kind of is. I ended up giving all the books to my sister after I left the church. So she has all my books. I have like the whole series. I don't even know what happened to the author because he never finished the series, and it took him like years and years. Like, I discovered this series when I was a kid, and my dad had read the first book and was like, "Oh, this is really good. You should read this." And so I got into the series. It's called, for those of you who are wondering, Tennis Shoes Among the Nephites. And I'm actually just gonna, I think it's by Chris, yeah, Chris, I'm probably gonna say this wrong. Heimerdinger is his last name. And I kind of wonder what ever happened to him because I am fairly certain that he never finished writing it. I don't think maybe he did. Maybe I never finished the last book that I purchased. I never finished reading it because the books were coming out so far apart, that it was hard to keep up because there's so many characters and all these things.
Okay, so I looked into it. The last installment was part 1 of a finale that came out in 2020, and part 2 is still in the works, apparently. It looks like he's been doing other projects. So I guess we'll see if it comes out or not.
Ooh. There's also like a reel here on YouTube. Apparently he has revised the first book. Oh, that see, I haven't I haven't the last book I bought, I was still I think in college, so it's been a while. But I kind of wondered if maybe he had like left the church or something and maybe that's why he stopped, but doesn't quite seem like that's the case.
It does look like he took a break to do some filmmaking.
Oh yeah, one of his books they made a movie out of. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I read. That's so weird, right? Like that's weird. I don't know. Do
It does make me wonder if you
Go
were to
ahead.
read those books today, if it would have changed your perception of them, knowing what you know now.
I think I I don't know. I because I don't know, part of me feels like deep down I knew that none of this was really that true. I don't know. Like I feel like my body knew. You know what I mean? Even though I was brainwashed or whatever. Because when I remember reading the books and just feeling like this is a really great fantasy series. Yeah, it has Jesus in it. It has like Nephites and stuff like that, but like the whole premise of the book is completely fantasy. I mean, it just goes um parallel to things that are happening in the Book of Mormon. So there's various wars that happen in the Book of Mormon, the second coming, so Jesus comes again to earth. So those things take place in the books. But the books aren't I don't know. It's weird. I don't know. I still feel like I can appreciate them, but like at this point they're just pure fiction. I mean, they were always fiction, but like every aspect, even the quote unquote historical pieces that went along with it are fiction. What's funny too is in this book series, one of the really big pieces of the book is the use of seer stones, which the the church very much swayed away from talking about for a very long time. That Joseph Smith used seer stones in a hat to translate the Book of Mormon. And the characters in this book use seer stones to kind of like see, I don't know, like what's happening or kind of like, uh, it's weird. It's a total just like wild fantasy book. Like,
Yeah, it's really interesting concept. I think what makes it stand out is how that it blends religious elements into a full-on fantasy adventure. It definitely takes something that people might only know in passing and spins it into a bigger imaginative world. And I'm curious to see how many people outside of the religion are familiar with the books.
yeah, it's so weird. It's so weird. But, I mean, there was some really cool, like, love stories, and it was all about time travel and all this stuff, and, um, I think the premise of the book is cool, actually, but I don't know, I kinda just wish was like, just take out all the Mormon stuff, and it's a great book. Great series, but yeah. But, luckily, my parents never really restricted anything that, I wanted to read. So that was really good, but that's not always the case for every household, regardless of the religion. So, and the reason this came up for me was because I was in between books and I decided to pick up a book on Kindle Unlimited I had a I have right now a 3-month like free trial right now for Kindle Unlimited. So I was like, I'm going to take advantage and read as many books as I can. And I picked up this one because I saw a TikTok on it. Something about like, oh, wouldn't that be funny if my ex Mormon romance book was ranked higher than the Book of Mormon or something on Amazon? Something like that. And so I saw this and I was like, oh, I need to know what this book is. So it's a romance book. Let me see if I can find the author here while I'm talking about it. The book is called Can I Steal You for Forever? Can I Steal You for Forever? And the author is ex Mormon. And the whole premise of the book is it's a modern contemporary romance, right? So basically, everything is pretty normal except for both of the main characters are also ex Mormon. So it takes place on basically a version of The Bachelor, and the male character is the bachelor for the season. The female character is a producer on the show, and she doesn't know he's going to be the bachelor on the show until the last minute because they have to change bachelors. And there's all of these cultural references to the Mormon faith because it takes place in Utah, and they cast him thinking that he is Mormon, and then he announces on the first night, I left the church, and half of the women on the cast are Mormon, and they're like, oh no. And so they make it into this like big thing, and they like there's so many references, and then there's also these time skips. So, well, not skips, but like flashbacks, right? Flashbacks of how these two people originally met because they used to date and they broke up. And this is like a second chance romance that they see each other again after years and years of being apart. And they met as kids. And the thing that they bonded over was reading because she wasn't allowed to read fantasy books and he was. So and it kind of goes through like he has his parents are less strict. They have more critical thinking on their shoulders. They really have formed their own opinions about right and wrong compared to the church. And so, they go to church and they do these things, but they're a little bit more nuanced versus her family is very strict, and you have to follow all the rules and all these things. And I related so much to this book because it talked about things that I just related to growing up, like having non-Mormon friends and how that's kind of like frowned upon, and like what you read and what you wear and all this purity culture, and like even just how the couple, they were both Mormons, but they split up because they broke the law of chastity, and like how this like big pivotal thing could have like ruined their lives and all these things when it's really like just a part of growing up, but it looks so differently in the church.
So this is one that you just recently read.
Yep, I recently read that one, and now I've moved on to vampire romances.
You know, I heard vampire fantasy hits different.
Well, we're heading into fall, and I'm theming it a little bit. So, I'm gonna give you my little geek out here. I'm playing Moonlight Peaks, which is a vampire werewolf farming sim. So I'm theming my reading around the book that I'm or the game that I'm playing. So I'm reading some vampire romance and playing my vampire game. So
Oh, that's fun. I have a little story. It's a little off topic. I got into this Vampire Hunter series by Laurel K. Hamilton, and this was a while ago. And the books start out very mild. It's just the main character, Anita, is a vampire hunter, and she goes out and she kills vampires that are causing problems. And my mom wanted something to read, so I'm like, oh yeah, just start those books. And she reads super fast. And she got to the fourth book and she called me and she's like, what did you get me into? I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, it's just sex. There's like orgies and like double penetration. And I'm like, Mom. So I think she ended up reading over 20 books in that series because she ended up loving it.
oh wow. Wow, that's a lot. I get nervous when there's like a 3-book series. I'm like, "Oh, 3 books. I don't know if I can commit to that." I'm like, "Give me a standalone." I love a standalone book, and then I move on to the next thing.
Yeah, it is a lot. I do like reading book series that are completed though, so you don't have to wait. Like I read the Fourth Wing series and it's not complete yet, so there's like another year of waiting until the next book comes out. I mean, I don't think it's actually that long now, but at that point when I'd read it.
Yeah, I have not attempted any of, like, the, major fantasy ones, Fourth Wing, ACOTAR, none of that. I have not. Maybe when they're all done, because I don't think any of them are all done, right?
No, I don't think so, but Fourth Wing was the only one I read.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about more about books and what we're allowed to read. So I don't know about you, but I feel okay. So I grew up in California, and so maybe there's just a difference in like how different states teach different subjects. But I feel like when I was a kid in the 90s and the early 2000s, that it was uh, taught to us that burning books, banning books, anything about restricting books was a signal of like a bad government, and I was under the impression that that was illegal, that we don't ban books in America. And now I'm like, wait, what happened?
Yeah, growing up, a lot of these popular books that people were given as assignments in school, like 1984 or Fahrenheit 451, we didn't read any of those books in the classes that I took. The only book we ever read in school that I was in was Animal Farm, and that
Mhm.
was it. So I never really knew that there were any banned books or anything, but we never even, I mean, I didn't learn any of the classics that actually had like really deep topics.
Yeah, I think I remember having lesson, a series of lessons or discussions on Fahrenheit 451. It's 451, right? Or whatever it is, Fahrenheit, yeah. Where it's all about banning books and things and how that's just bad for society and things like that. And like that, it just really stuck with me. You know what I mean? Like I kind of in my brain, I'm like banning books equals bad. You know?
What's interesting to me about banned books is that banned can mean so many different things. Sometimes the government literally prohibits a book, sometimes a school removes it, a publisher edits it, and people simply challenge it because they don't think it belongs in a library or a classroom. And the reasons can
Yeah.
be wildly different too: political, ideology, religion, sexuality, violence, profanity, or just the fear that the book might expose people to an idea that they don't like. And some of the irony is pretty incredible. Like Fahrenheit 451 is about censorship, and an edited version of the book was distributed to schools. All Quiet in the Western Front was burned by the Nazis because it depicted a war that didn't fit their ideology. Let's see, 1984 was banned by the Soviet Union because of its criticism of totalitarianism. So I think the more interesting question isn't just what books have been banned,
Mhm.
it's what
Yeah.
makes somebody decide that other people shouldn't be allowed to read something. And then where do we draw the line between protecting people, especially children, and simply protecting them from
Yeah.
ideas we don't want them exposed to?
Right now, I feel like there is a surplus of books being banned and also books that are people are trying to make become required reading in their states, which I think is crazy.
Ooh, that's wild. We'll have to talk about that. I haven't really read into anything on required reading, so I'm curious about what you found. But I do know locally there's been a lot of controversy and challenges to books that deal with gender identity and queer experiences. The argument seems to be that kids shouldn't be introduced to different perspectives on gender or sexuality through books. And honestly, I think that's something parents should have the ability to decide for their own kids rather than be a community deciding what every kid should or shouldn't be exposed to.
Yeah, I think for me, regardless of what your political or religious beliefs are, I feel like you just have to make that decision for yourself and like decision of how you're going to parent your kids. And uh, like okay, so I was in Barnes and Noble the other day, and they have that table of the banned books, and I don't know how often they circulate like what's on there. Because you can still purchase banned books. When we're talking about banned books, it's usually they're banned out of public libraries and schools. Um, One of the banned books that I saw on that table was Matilda.
Wait, what? Really?
Yes.
That is just wild.
That is insane. I mean, every millennial knows what Matilda is. Roald Dahl is like the author of our time, and Matilda was everything. I mean, we have a whole movie about Matilda, and like it just that doesn't make sense to me. And it's like, what's the bad theme here? It's all about found family.
Yeah, and perseverance and not
Yeah,
yeah, not being alone.
I think maybe because like she stood up to her parents.
And I don't remember Matilda being particularly violent compared to a lot of the other stuff we were exposed to as kids. And the book came out, what, in the late 80s? So that was like a decade before the movie. I guess it does have some pretty dark stuff with Trunchbull, but it was also exaggerated and fantastical.
Okay, let me see. So Matilda is not officially banned on a national level, but it has been challenged and restricted in some local schools and libraries. Reasons for challenges: disobedience. Critics argue that books encourage children to disobey their parents and authority figures. Negative deceptions. Some object to the harsh, abusive, and neglectful behavior of the adult characters, like the Trunchbull. Also, tone. Concerns have been raised over crude language and disrespect. See, here's the thing though. If you're a good parent, and then I feel like your kid is going to understand why there's disobedience in this book. Matilda's not disobedient because she wants to, be mean or, be like this bad child. She is challenging authority because the authority in her life is bad authority. And we need to teach children how to judge for themselves who is safe and who, they need to be able to, learn these kind of skills. Like, there are some kids who are in bad situations, and that Matilda is a sense of hope for them.
Yeah, those kinds of books help foster empathy and critical thinking. And with AI becoming such a big part of how we get information now, I think critical thinking is more important than ever. So, removing materials that actually encourage kids to think critically feels like a dangerous direction to go.
Hmm. Yes.
I think so too. I feel like I'm not a parent, but if I were and someone told me your child can't read that book because it's been banned, I'd be like, okay, well, now I'm going to go find that book and let them read it just because you told me they weren't allowed to.
Yeah, we're going to Barnes and Noble. Come on, kids. Well, and I loved reading as a kid, and I just, part of I don't know, like I don't know. I think people's concerns are a little bit far-fetched. Um, you know, sure.
Okay, I might get a little long winded here, but I think there's a difference between genuine parental concern for your child's well being and wanting to have control over everything that they're exposed to. And I don't think every book that gets challenged is shock value. Some of these books are educational and can actually help kids understand things outside of their own experience. I think as a parent, you should review that information, use your best judgment, and decide what's appropriate for your child.
Mhm.
Maybe you read it first, or you sit down with them and have a conversation about it and say, this is my perspective on this, and here's how I want you to think about it.
Yeah.
because you also never know how your kids are going to grow up or what they're going to believe. They might agree with you or they might rebel completely. And if you keep them in such a tight little bubble that they're never exposed to anything outside of your beliefs, they may get older and encounter these things without having any context for how to process or handle it.
So the other thing that I've heard recently is that certain states are maybe there's just one state, I'll need to check, is trying to make the Bible required reading in schools.
Yeah, that is not something I can get on board with. And I think Texas was one of them.
Let's see. Oh, apparently, well, yeah, I think Texas. Texas is the one that comes up for me. Um, I don't like this. I don't like it at all. It 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 doesn't make any sense. Um, because for just so many reasons. Our whole country, a lot of people will say, was founded like as a Christian country, but no, it was founded as a country free from religious prosecution and free from the a requirements of having a specific religion. We escaped because we didn't want to all be, what was it, Catholic? Uh, so that we could have the freedom of doing what we wanted, whether that is practicing religion or not.
Well, and this is where it gets really concerning. There's a big difference between teaching students about religion as part of history or literature and requiring them to engage with one particular religious text. Public schools have kids from all kinds of religious backgrounds, including kids who aren't religious at all. So I think requiring the Bible could very easily cross that line from education into promoting a particular belief system. And once you open that door, you have to ask whose religion gets to be required.
It doesn't make sense to me. I don't know. I it's like how do they control the narrative too behind it? Like what's the guideline on, like, okay, so here's the required reading. You have to read about David and Goliath and Adam and Eve. What's the what's the takeaway? How does the teacher teach that? Like, are we teaching them this is like a fact, this is historical, this happened, or this is a good lesson in a uh, I don't know, like a you like you can take something away from it, but it's not, you know what I mean? And what's to stop teachers from being like, here is a story that is made up by Christian people called David and Goliath. You know what I mean? Like, uh, how do they decide and dictate how it's taught?
Right. Well, I feel like if they're going to bring religion into schools, they shouldn't be teaching one specific religion. If you want to teach about religion, then you should have a class that covers a broad range of different religions and teach students about them objectively.
Then there should be a religion class and it goes over multiple religions and teaches you about religion in general, not one specific
Yeah,
religion.
exactly. Because then you're not creating that bias. If you bring in one specific religion, what happens to the students who don't practice that religion? Even if the teacher isn't intentionally treating them differently, it can create that expectation that one belief system is the
Yeah.
right one. And I think that's where it gets uncomfortable. Like, if a student's family practices Buddhism, are they expected to participate in assignments
Mhm.
based on Christian beliefs? How do you make sure they're being evaluated on what they've learned rather than whether they personally believe it?
Let's see. What students will be required to read by grade? Oh, hold on. Oh, no, I don't want to like for subscribers only. Never mind. I can't read this article. Yeah, I just think it's a slippery slope. I just think like if you want your kids to learn about the Bible, that's what church is for. Go to church. I don't want my tax dollars to go to people who are like, let me teach the Bible to my children while they're in school. No, that's what you go to church for.
I just think it's a slippery slope, and I think it can be dangerous when public education starts getting into how kids should live or what they should believe. I believe schools should focus on preparing kids for life in general, giving them the knowledge and critical thinking skills to make those decisions for themselves, rather than teaching them one specific way to live.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, it should be history of religion and how like timelines of this religion was founded in this year and by this person and that sort of thing, and this is what those people believe. Like very like third party kind of perspective of here's the history of various religions and how it has impacted the world and that sort of thing. Not like I mean we get into this and then next thing you like how would you feel? Okay, so you have they want you to Bible to be required reading, okay? Well, how would you feel if you lived in Texas and you're like, "Oh, you know what? Let's move to Utah." And what if in Utah they decided that the Book of Mormon was required reading for students? And in Utah, if you didn't know, um, seminary, which is in pretty much any other state, seminary is a thing that happens. Mormon high school kids go typically before school to seminary, which is a daily Monday through Friday study, religious study class, and which oh gosh, I can't believe that I spent 4 years in Bible study class at like 4 a.m. in the morning. Okay, um, this usually happens before school, outside of school, in a church building. In Utah, seminary is a class you can take. It is offered by the schools. It's not required. It's not required, but it is offered. So how much of a stretch is it before we say, okay, well now the Book of Mormon is required reading in Utah? Okay, so now how do you feel about it? Like, you know what I mean? Like now you go from, oh well, the everybody no, not everybody believes in the Bible. You can't just push Bible into everybody's schools because it's the same thing as some a Mormon being like, well, you have to read the Book of Mormon or you have to read the Quran or you have to read this or that.
I mean, there are religion based schools, right? So that's an option if someone wants their child to have that in their education, is to take them to a religious based school to be centered around a specific faith. And if they want to teach them those beliefs at home, obviously that's their choice. I just don't understand why we would move that into the public school system where it
Mhm.
applies to everyone.
Yeah, actually, what when I was in college, I went to a Mormon school and I it was required that you took a like some sort of religion class, Bible study, whatever it is, every semester. But I do feel like this will cause separation in kids who are from families of different religions or no religions being forced in school to read and learn about Bible stories. And we already see that in states like Utah that children are you know there's a lot of separation between kids who go to church and kids who don't.
Yeah, I think so too. School can already be hard enough when you're trying to find your people and figure out where you fit in. I think introducing something that could make certain kids feel like outsiders just adds another layer of separation that doesn't need to be there. All right, so we're going to wrap up here. We do have a part two coming where we get into some of the literature and some of the lighter stuff. So let us know how you feel about banned books and about religion in schools. And if you enjoyed this conversation, like, comment, share, and all that fun stuff. And we will see you next week.
Bye.